acknowledge them, and we go backwards till 2016 as a consequence.
Call the Honourable Amy Adams.
Thank you, Mr Speaker, and can I just begin my contribution by congratulating you and your fellow presiding officer, sir, on your re-election to your roles, and can I welcome all new members to the House. That last contribution from Mr Parker tells us very clearly that Labour are still labouring under the illusion that somehow New Zealand got it wrong. They didn't really mean to vote national. It kind of somehow slipped by them when they weren't looking. The reality is New Zealand has once more comprehensively rejected the Labour program of debt and disarray. What they actually told us on the 26th of November was that they wanted a national-led government with John Key at the helm, that they understood that in challenging times you need the sort of economically responsible, strong, stable government that we have proven ourselves to be over the last 3 years and that we'll continue to be over this next term. Mr Speaker, the last 12 months in particular have seen the global situation continue to deteriorate. I know, sir, over the break in January, I was looking at one of the reports that came out of Europe that had been entitled Eurogeddon. And that, sir, is certainly a graphic way of describing the very real and very serious nature of the deteriorating situation in Europe and around the world. We can't put our heads in the sand around this. We can't keep continuing to believe that we can just keep spending, don't worry about where it will come from, it'll all come out all right. We have to take the necessary steps to protect ourselves from these international shockwaves. We have to continue to diversify our trade routes, and so excellent work has been done by that, and I acknowledge that that's been done by a number of governments on diversifying the importance of those alternative trade routes, making sure we're not as heavily reliant on the traditional European and US markets, recognising that the great growth areas for us are in the Asia-Pacific, and all the work we're doing in that area is certainly fundamental. We have to also, sir, reflect on our domestic situation and recognise that when you are a country the size of New Zealand, we have to be better and leaner and more resilient than perhaps our larger neighbours. If we're going to move towards the sort of New Zealand that this government wants to deliver, one of higher incomes and better opportunities, if we're going to move towards that sort of New Zealand, we have to have a plan in place to weather this situation and build towards our future. And that's what this government's focused on. It's not always going to be easy, sir. Some of the decisions and some of the discussions will challenge some people. But we can't keep carrying on pretending everything's rosy while the world gets weaker and weaker around us. So looking across the 3 years of this term, the Prime Minister set out in his introductory statements to the House in this term, there are 4 key areas that we see important progress needing to be made in. The first of those, sir, is around the management of government finances. The national government, both this one and national governments historically, have proven themselves to be governments of economic rationality, economic prudence and very careful management of taxpayers' money. We understand that every cent we spend, we take out of the pocket of a hard-working New Zealander. We're very, very mindful of that, sir. We're not going to throw money away, throw it around recklessly. We have to respect the people who have earned that money, and we owe them the courtesy, sir, of ensuring we spend it well. So we have to manage government finance as well. We're focused on getting New Zealand back to surplus by 2014-15, and we're still on track to do that, even though the times are getting tougher. Why is that so important, sir? It's important because being in surplus means we have choices. We can't keep spending money we haven't got. You've got to earn money before you spend it. Now that sounds pretty simple, it sounds pretty trite. Every family, every business in New Zealand knows that. But for too long, sir, Labour and left-wing governments have forgotten that. We are going to get back to a basis of you have to earn money before you spend it. So we have to keep the Crown debt to a manageable level. Debt has become an issue over years gone by, and dealing with the impact of Christchurch earthquakes and other disasters, we are going to keep debt peaking under 30%. The Labour opposition over the campaign went out and promised 15 billion more of spending than this government. They didn't worry about the debt. They didn't worry about the long-term resilience of this economy. They just kept promising to spend your money and rack up more debt that your future generations are going to have to cover. This government won't do that. We will keep debt from peaking below 30%. Let's look back on the legacy of the Labour government. We hear them harping away over there from the opposition benches. Let's look at what they left us. From 2004 to 2008, they increased government spending by more than 50%. 50% increases in core government spending. And that would be fine, sir, if things were going well in the real sector. But over that same period, Mrs. King, over that same period, that party presided over a recession in the productive sector well ahead of the rest of the world. While they kept spending, Mr. Speaker, our productive sector, the people in this country who earn stuff, make stuff, grow stuff, sell stuff, they were going backward, and the Labour Party didn't care. They just kept spending. They didn't understand, sir, that it's the productive sector in this country that creates jobs. You don't create jobs, you don't create better opportunities by government spending it. You create it by setting up the conditions, sir, in which business can thrive and in which investment will come into New Zealand and where entrepreneurs are prepared to put their own capital on the line. And so that's the next part of what we need to do. We need to make sure our economy is resilient, we need to make sure it's productive and that it's competitive with the world. Now, you've heard my colleague Sam Lotowiga and others talk about our 120-point plan. That is a comprehensive document, sir, recognising that the best thing the government can do, is create an environment in which business can thrive. Mr. Speaker, we're in the season of maiden speeches in the House, and it makes me think back to my maiden speech, sir, and in that I talked at some length about the fact that we need to wake up to the fact that in this country, business is small to medium enterprises more often than not. It's not big, ugly corporates that the Green Party like to attack on every opportunity. Actually, more often than not, it's a mum and dad running their own enterprise, struggling to employ a few staff. It's a dairy owner. It's someone working out of his garage. It's small business. Those are the people who create jobs in this country. Those are the people we have to support. We have to do that, sir, by a couple of things. We've got to create the right infrastructure. We have to get the road, rail, electricity and, very importantly, broadband networks in place to ensure that they can conduct their business easily. We have to ensure that we've got the skills coming through our education system to support that business. And so there's some tremendous work happening through my colleague Minister Joyce's portfolios in tertiary education and skills. There's some tremendous work happening in the ICT space around the ICT entrepreneur scheme to ensure that we are supporting our New Zealanders. They are incredibly innovative, and we need to ensure that those skills are harnessed, nurtured and retained in New Zealand. And that's what the strategy is designed to do, to make New Zealand a place where young New Zealanders coming up come out of our system with the skills to lead the world and with every incentive to stay here in New Zealand. So, obviously, I've taken on the portfolio of broadband and ICT, and in that space alone, over the period to July this year, we're going to see 58,000 premises, including 211 schools connected to ultra-fast broadband. That's the impact it's going to have on our education system, our health system, our way of doing business will be revolutionary. It's due to the investment of this government that the Labour Party opposed that we're going to see world-leading connectivity for New Zealand households, New Zealand government services and New Zealand consumers. So better public services is a core part of what we need to deliver. We have to have a welfare system that incentivises people to get back to work, because that is the path out of poverty. You can talk about poverty all you like. The path out of poverty is to get people back into work. You have to create the jobs, and you have to have a system that incentivises and rewards them for getting back into that system. We have to have a world-leading education system, and my colleague Minister Parata is doing excellent work building on the good work of Minister Tolley in that space. And so we have to ensure that the public services provide value for money. Sir, I know my time is coming to an end, and I do want to touch on the rebuilding of Canterbury. The rebuilding of Canterbury is a significant priority for this government. The people in my region have shown incredible resilience over the past 18 months. We're now up at more than 10,000 earthquakes, and I want to pay tribute in particular, sir, to the residents of suburbs like Parklands and out east who on December 23rd, when everyone else was settling back for Christmas, looking forward to hanging up their briefcases and their suits, those people were once again having to be out there digging out tons of liquefaction from their homes. The way that they get up time and time again and keep going and stay committed to their province is absolutely heroic. I can't speak more highly of them, and Sir, this government is going to walk with them every step of the way. We're going to build a temporary rugby stadium to get the Crusaders back there, and I look forward to seeing every member of this House down there supporting the Crusaders on the 24th of March.
The Honourable David Cunliffe.
Mr. Speaker, may I take the opportunity on this, my first contribution,